What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to LogiCast, the Logical Gamers podcast. I'm Esoteric, and I'm here along with Wolf, BlankaKong, and Gunner Eos. Today, we are going to discuss gaming relationship balances. And what I mean is not just in the romantical aspects of relationships, but also friendships, dealing with work, any academic missions that you're on, and so on. So, on my premise, I am going to speak from the romantical aspect because I do currently have a girlfriend, which those of you who tune into my Twitch would know she is sweet like honey.
Why are you
Okay?
showing off, man? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Not showing off. I listen.
I'm
If I
kidding.
don't
Come
say it,
on.
I'm getting. If I don't say it, I'll get killed. If I do say it,
She's
I'm
not listening
bragging.
to this shit. Come on.
Uh, she
Go ahead.
does from time to time. But
I'm just kidding. Go
yes.
ahead.
So
Sorry. Go ahead.
I must say, in this particular relationship, my game and relationship balance is pretty great. I started streaming prominent while being in this relationship, to be honest. My last relationship didn't allow me the time and privilege to game the way that I wanted to.
Nope.
Um, Shut the hell up, Wolf. So there were instances in my past relationship where I had to allocate most of my time into her and not so much into video games. In this particular one, it's great because not only does she support my streaming and my gaming hobbies, she also partakes in them. So, almost every stream that I have, she's in there. She's always giving me advice to improve the channel. She's well known amongst my friends because the last one wasn't really. Um, there was a joke pertaining to her never being there. We
Did
just
she
hear her
really
by name.
exist?
Exactly. Did she really exist, et cetera, et cetera. The jokes went on and on and on. Um, but yeah, to kind of dive further in, I would suggest it's really a good thing to deal with someone who actually either supports your hobbies or understands that you have this part of your life that is never going to go away. Like I grew up playing games. This is what I enjoy. This is my escape from the world, from work, from everyday life that kind of like annoys me and I have to deal with. It's my fun time. It's my time. It's my me time. Okay. And as of right now, I can say that it works really well for me. You know, um, Currently I am not a parent, so uh my time kind of divvies up between her, work, speak to my family every now and then because I'm away from them. I don't live in the same state as they do. So yeah, the balance is pretty great on my end. Um, I can go on and on. I'll probably, chime in during you guys versions of your gaming life balance. But who wants to go next?
Don't all jump in at
Um,
once. Gunner, was that your way of
uh,
saying you want to go?
yeah. Yeah, I'll go in. Yeah. Well, being a lone wolf, so to speak. I don't have that personal struggle? Question mark. But so I can't relate, but I do sympathize. But I do think that a healthy game relationship balance is important, regardless if it's with a significant other. You got to do that for family, friends, and a lot of the time you got to do that for you, for yourself. That's kind of where I'm going with this. I used to play like a lot of games and different games, and I would always hop on the latest release and the new games coming out. I'm already picking it up, and during past couple years, past 2 years, I realized that maybe, don't do that. Like I don't need to go hardcore and just play every new release that comes out. Like if I get something nowadays, it's gonna last me for a super extended period of time, which allows me to kind of do other things that aren't game related. I know it's kind of like we're on a gaming podcast and we're talking about not playing a lot of games. But yeah, so I've just kind of like toned down on just playing every release. I have maybe 2 or 3 games that I'm playing at any one time. I divvy them up like, oh, I feel like playing X game today. I feel like playing Y game today. Or sometimes like, you know what? I feel like go I feel like going to build plastic model kits today. Or I just feel like reading a book today. Or I just want to listen to music or insert other hobby here. So I think having a good balance with yourself and kind of like spending your time on different things instead of just sitting in front of a screen all day and playing a game, which hey, look, if that's your pastime, if you've had a long day at work or school, or you've had like a shitty day and you just want to dive into X game and just spend 8 hours there, or if you're a streamer and that's your job, well then have at you. But I think I was unbalanced before when it came to gaming, and some self-reflection and some imposed home time, let's say, kind of helped me realize that let me just like slot out a certain number of hours to play games and then just do something else, just anything else. So that's my first example of cohesive game balance life. Just, sometimes you do have to worry about yourself, as the saying goes.
Yeah,
So,
that makes perfect sense. Like, although one of your hobbies is video games, you should make time for your other hobbies as well. I I guess I took on streaming because one, I do love video games, and two, it helps me kind of utilize other enjoyment from other hobbies such as like digital editing and things of that nature. Um, but I can't. It is. It gets a little difficult trying to find that particular balance when it comes from the different hobbies that I do have and partake in. Like Gunner is like the master of allocating his time when it comes to different things because I barely pick up a book unless I'm at work.
well,
Yes.
it's also because I enjoy doing that. So it's all about like what you enjoy. If you feel like that's a chore, then you're not gonna have fun with it. So you just like if reading casually is a chore and you don't find enjoyment in it, then that's just not like a hobby that might interest you.
No, I do enjoy it. It's just that sometimes other hobbies kind of oversee it at
Mm.
times, like as you know from my like you guys know me as well. I built models as well. I haven't built a Gundam model in like years. So, maybe I just need to kind of divvy up the time there and figure out, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it is about, to me anyway, it's about dividing, just allocating your resources. Like you talked about reading, and it goes, hey, okay, well, I have an hour that I can have quiet. Okay, for that hour, I'm going to try to get through a chapter. If I do that and all I read is that one chapter, or I read an hour's worth of the book, then that's it. That's my allocated time. And it's like, all
Mm,
right, I want to work on my model. I want to get like its arm done today, or its legs done today. And once I do that, that's my time bracket. And then I go, okay, cool. If I have things to do, chores, work, um, adulting, as it were, it's like, all right, well, I got this done at least, or I tried to. Okay, well, we'll try again. We'll see if I can squeeze in an hour later in the day or tomorrow. So it's just time management. This never-ending battle with time management.
true, true.
Blanca, do you want to go?
No, you go first. I want to
Okay.
hear what you have to say.
um, so for me, time management when it comes to video games being a hobby has gotten a lot more difficult. To the point where I don't really have much time to play video games anymore. And that's because, whereas Esoteric has a girlfriend, I got a wife with kids.
And NPCs.
Right. So with that said, the 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 way that I have to balance it, not only being a person who's in a career, who's also taking care of kids, and also has a wife that he has to give attention to as well. There's a lot of my personal hobbies that I've had to learn that I need to push aside for the sake of everyone else around me. And one of the hobbies is video games. So a lot of times when I do have time to play video games, I don't really want to play by myself. I use it as a catalyst of saying, okay, well, I want to keep in contact with my friends who do play video games. And seeing as I'm in a different state from them now, this is online gaming is a great way for me to stay in touch with them or stay in contact with them, because getting up and going to the state where they reside is not so easy. So my relationship in game my relationships that I've chosen to make and build with other people have affected my gaming considerably. Um I definitely do. Gunnar said, it's ironic that he doesn't play video games 24/7, even though he's a part of a video game channel. And I think that's something to be respected. That's a respectful comment, regardless.
Yeah.
Whether we are a video game, whether Logical Cast is for video games or not, I personally feel we shouldn't be playing video games 24/7. I don't have anything against someone who plays video games 24/7. That is entirely up to you. That is your choice as an individual. But I do like the fact that Gunnar will take time and say, hey, go to the gym, get his body in shape. Because a video game he can play for 3 hours, he gets to that end credit, he probably will never load that video game again. But if he can spare himself another 10, 20, 30 years of risking a heart attack because his body is in health, that to me is way more value than spending 8 hours on a video game trying to relax. And exercising, for example, can be a form of relaxation if someone
Yeah.
were to actually give it a try. Um, so, like a lot of things that you guys do, Esoteric is very devoted to his significant other. He definitely always puts time out to accommodate her attention. That's also something to be respected, because even if you love playing video games, or even if you love building models, or even if you love doing whatever it is you do, your hobbies do affect the attention span of the people around you. And you definitely don't want to give those that are important to you a notion or thinking that your hobby is more important than them. Um, that's the way I feel personally about it. So yeah, I don't play as much video games as I would like, and that's why certain franchises that I love so much has started to go into a space where I don't even want to waste my quote unquote valuable time on them anymore. I'd rather just play something else, because at this point I would rather play better quality video games
Right.
for the little bit of time that I have within a day. And 24 hours is not enough. It's not enough for a day. The way that life is set up, there's not enough hours in the day for you to do everything you want, or for you to say, okay, well, I'll waste 2 to 3 hours on this when I could have been doing something, or even a video game. You waste 2 to 3 hours on a video game you're not enjoying, when you could be wasting 2 to 3 hours on a video game you're actually enjoying. So that's where that whole well, I don't want to really waste my time on certain things when I could be doing something else. And that also does still pertain to selective video games. So that's my take on it so far, at least from my point of view and how I've decided to live my life. I love video games. I will always love video games. I play a lot of mobile games because I'm always on the go. So while I'm waiting for my car maintenance, or I can load up the mobile game for a quick 20 minutes, play it, put it down again. When I'm annoyed or tired of it, I'll just delete it because I want more space on my phone. It's just, I've just found little ways of getting my gaming in here and there without it trying to affect my personal life overall. If I made any sense, I'm going to move it on to Blanca.
You made no sense. I want a refund. No, I'm kidding, of course. But
Yeah.
so I was interested to hear what you guys had to say and how you interpreted the topic. This topic ideally was supposed to be like relationships and gaming. It kind of like transformed a little bit into time management, being a gamer, which is fine because I think those two topics kind of like coincide with each other. So there's a lot of different angles I can take with this. And I'll start with the more interesting one, and that's relationships, as far as the romantic kind of relationships and being a gamer. So I think Esoteric has the best strategy in place in that, and this isn't exclusive to like romantic relationships. I think this is good for any relationship, and that's finding overlap. So overlap is great because it's like you're making an hour of time that you could be spending doing one thing, you can kind of do two things within that same hour. So, as far as Esoteric is concerned, right, him including his significant other into his hobby and his new hobby of streaming, which again is now overlap, right? He's streaming, but he's also gaming, right? Because that these two things kind of work together. So he's doing both things at once, right? And on top of that, his significant other is a part of that experience. So now he's kind of like doing three things at once, right? He's sharing his passion, he's participating in his passion, and arguably the most important person in his life is a part of that participation, right? So there's a lot of overlap there, and I think that's how you get like the most fulfillment. So during the past few years, let me finish that thought first. During the past few years, I've had a lot of time to myself, and I've had a lot of time to reflect, as many people around the world, if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So, for a long time, one of my weaknesses is putting limitations on myself. So I'm either in something or I'm out. Like there's no 50% in, 50% out. Like with me, I'm either 100% in or I'm 0% out. Like it's really hard for me to find a balance in doing something. So like if I'm working out, for example, like if I decide, today I'm gonna lift weights, like I will spend like a good chunk of the day just working out. Or if I decide I'm gonna clean, right? All right, I'm just gonna clean this room, right? I'll end up cleaning the entire apartment. Like for me, it's hard to just kind of like dip my toe into the water. I'm either completely dry or I'm drenched in whatever it is the topic or the activity is, right? So that's something I've been working on personally, and I think the solution that I found is finding overlap. So working out, for example, right? It's like, okay, well, I want to get some gaming in, but I also want to work out. So how can I make these things overlap, right? Well, you find fitness games, right? So for Switch, I have fitness boxing, and I have what's the other one with the ring? Ring Fit, I think it's called. I have that game.
Yeah.
So like if I want to get my workout in, but I'm not really feeling it, like there are certain days you wake up and you're just like, I really don't want to work out.
Yeah.
It's human. So it's finding overlap is important. Or, working out with a buddy. That way it's like, okay, well, I'm getting quality time with my, my friend or my family member, and I'm also getting my workout in. It's just finding ways to kind of like overlap these things so that you make the most of your time. That's kind of been my strategy, and I think that's what more people should do so that you get more fulfillment out of your time. Because it's bullshit. Like Wolf mentioned it, 24 hours in a day is not a lot of time. At least 5 to 8 hours of that day go to fucking sleeping, which is bullshit. It's like,
and another 5 to 8 work.
You know what I mean? And if you work full time, we're talking, all right, let's say you sleep for 8 hours. Cool. That leaves you with 16 hours left. Okay, that's not bad. But then if you go to work, right, and let's say your work is, not necessarily enjoyable, it's kind of like whatever, most people have jobs that they don't really particularly care about. They just do it because it's like something you have to do, right? Let's say you work minimum of 6 hours, maximum maybe let's say 10 hours or 12 hours, right? Let's say 10 hours. Let's just meet in the middle, right? That leaves you with what, 6 hours? Okay, let's say it takes you an hour to get to work. Okay, and an hour to get back home.
Me.
Right? Okay, there we go, right? That's 2 hours of travel time, right? You're not doing anything interesting during that travel time. Maybe you are, but probably not, right? That leaves you with what, 4 hours? So you come home and you have 4 hours to do what? Okay, let's say you take 2 showers a day, and let's say it takes you 20 minutes to shower. Okay, that's 40 minutes gone. All right, let's say it takes you 10 minutes to eat, and it takes you eat 3 times a day. That's already 30 minutes gone. Like, once you start doing the math, you start writing this shit out, you go, what the fuck? Like, I don't have time for anything. So that's something I realize, because in my quest to, being a little healthier and losing the pandemic weight, which I've lost a lot of it, thankfully, is I've realized that just like with business, if you want to change something, you have to manage it. You have to record things. You have to write things down. You have to track things. You have to look at it, because it's easy to go, oh, let's say if you want to save money, right? If you don't set goals for yourself, you'll never save significant money, right? You'll just kind of like, oh, I guess I'll save $20 here and there, and I guess I'll, like, you have to have a rigid system in place, and you have to track it, right? Otherwise, you just won't be successful at whatever it is you're trying to do, whether it's save money, whether it's losing weight, whether it's allocating more time, more quality time with family, or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. Like, you just won't be successful. Like, you have to write things down. You have to track things, because if you don't, then your mind will play tricks on you, and you won't be doing as well as you could have been doing, right? If there was a way for you to like get a crystal ball and kind of look at the outcome of how a particular week is going to go, like, okay, if I track my eating for this week versus not tracking my eating, how many more calories do I eat, right? If you could see that number, if there was a way for you to like predict the future, right, to see that discrepancy, I think that'll really like open your eyes and make you change, right? Same thing if you wanted to save money, for example, and you go, well, if I rigidly save $100 every time I get paid versus I kind of save whenever I kind of remember to save, you're going to save way more money if you start tracking it, right? So as far as relationships are concerned, trying to figure out what relationships you want to keep intact, right? And then finding that overlap. So like Wolf mentioned it, that, there's a group of friends that he wants to stay in contact with. I'm a part of that group. And a way to kind of stay in contact is through our hobby of gaming. So it's like, okay, well, I get to spend time with my friends and I get to get some gaming time in. So that's the overlap that you kind of have to find. So that's kind of like, I know I kind of went on a tangent there about a bunch of different things, but like, I think it's important to kind of mention that because a lot of people probably haven't realized that. And, I wish I knew that sooner. I wish somebody kind of brought that to my attention 10 years ago or 20 years ago. That would have been really helpful to know, or to at least play with that idea of overlap, time management, and, tracking, like just writing everything down, making everything kind of like a video game in a way. Like, if anybody plays Pokemon listening to this, like if you're a competitive player, you probably at one point or another have made spreadsheets or written down like how you want to build a specific Pokemon and how you're going to do it, right? You treat life the same way, you're going to get better results. And the same thing could be said about relationships. Like, oh, I really want a girlfriend, and but if you're not doing anything to like make that happen, then you're just going to just most likely not have a girlfriend or a boyfriend for a long time, like it's a numbers game. You have to kind of do whatever it is that you want to do to get the result that you want, right? If you want to lose weight, but you're eating cupcakes all the fucking time, put down the cupcake. Like, eat something else, or just don't eat that thing. Cut that thing out, and you'll see the results that you want. So I don't know. So the same could be said about relationships. Like that, I know I'm kind of like going off on a tangent. I'm trying to pull myself back to the relationship sphere. But I think everything I'm saying kind of coincides with having relationships, and and respecting your own hobby. In this case, video games.
It absolutely makes sense in my opinion, because your hobbies are kind of sort of a relationship in a way, because you're spending time doing what it is that you want to do. Like, you can have all these different kinds of relationships, whether it's friendship, romantical or whatever. But one of the most important ones is to have a relationship with yourself. And you do that through your hobbies, through what it is that you enjoy doing, and discovering yourself. And you did make a good point, Kong, about, your reference to the crystal ball. You have the perfect recipe for a crystal ball, which is, keeping a schedule, maintaining, everything that it is that you do. Because if you're consistent in what it is that you do, you can almost kind of calculate the results in the future. If you're consistently saving $100, as you said, over a month's time, within 12 months, that's $1,200. So,
right.
It's all about being consistent, and just as you said, writing things down. And also, to your point pertaining to knowing this 10 years ago or whatnot, that would have definitely been a great like teaching, great knowledge to have. But I feel like we appreciate it more because we are now learning it. Well, I can't speak for everyone, but myself, I'm now learning to kind of sort of perfect it. Yes, there's going to be some variables that come into play that kind of disrupt your schedule or whatnot, but you just have to kind of tweak it back and adjust and kind of like restabilize yourself in that regard.
Well, having a schedule and having like a tracking system in place helps you rebound.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. From my experience, at least. Like having that, especially if you record, like I like to have, like I have a bunch of books, like just notebooks. And I have a different notebook for different things that I track. And so everything is written down. And so I see the history in which of the certain like activities. So like I've been doing certain workouts every day, and I write down how many sets of whatever I do, and I also record my weight and all that stuff, right? And so I'm able to see what I was doing a month ago to now, and it's easy. Like if I didn't do that, I would severely underestimate my progress, right?
Yeah, you think you're stagnant,
right? But when you actually look at the raw data, and it's like, whoa, this is a big, this is a sizable difference, right? And so it's the same thing with, to harken it back to relationships, like, when you lose people in your life, you always, like, it always happens, I think. You always regret what you didn't do with that person, right? Damn, I wish I spent more time with them. Man, I wish I went to this event when I had the opportunity. Man, I wish I did this and this and this. Like it's just a long list of regret, which might be a little unfair depending on at least I have a tendency of beating myself up over things like that personally, and I think a lot of people do. But the point is like tracking things and finding overlap and finding what's actually valuable. And mining it, if you find value in spending time with your siblings, spend time with your siblings. Yeah. If you find a lot of value in spending time with your kids, spend time with your kids. And if you feel like, okay, I want to spend time with my kids, but I also want to be more active, right? So okay, then find active activities to do with your kids. Like again, it goes back to the overlap. Like that's the life hack. That's how you win.
Yeah.
Businessmen, like, how do I live a balanced life and also make money? Well, they, passive income, residual income, like that's the life hack, right? And so like implementing that same ideology into every other aspect of your life, whether that be, your hobbies, your relationship building, whatever it may be. Like that's how you find success, and that's how you kind of live a fulfilled life. At least that's what I'm kind of learning now. Unfortunately, a little late, but I'd rather learn this stuff now than 20 years from now, right? Because there are
Or
people who
never.
are, or never, right? Like, be 70 or 80 years old and be like, oh, if only I had more time. And it's like, well, everybody gets 24 hours. Like that's a fixed amount of time everybody gets. Nobody, it doesn't matter who you are, how successful you are, what situation you're in, everybody gets 24 hours. That's
Can't buy
fixed.
more hours.
You can't buy it, you can't negotiate it.
Nope.
That's it. You're going to get the time that you get, and what you do with it is up to you. And so yeah.
I definitely agree that Esoteric has a very I must say talent of overlapping his interests with his social life. Because he is one who do like to, at least when I first met him, he was one that liked to, he'll go out, he'll go out to social scenes and so forth and so forth. But he always tried to surround himself with people who also enjoyed going out, enjoying social scenes. And then those few same people could also like video games, which is another interest of his. So he's always been an individual who will overlap or find multiple common ground within his circle. So what he's doing now with his significant other is what he does naturally. It's what he's naturally good at. I feel, which is obviously it's working for him. It makes him a happier person. It definitely can make you a happier person when you can put all your hobbies, or multiple things that you can get done in a day. If you can get them to work in conjunction with each other, that will make you a happier person because you will feel more successful within the short hours of time that you do have. When I play video games with my son, I feel happy at that moment because I do like playing video games, but more so, I like seeing him enjoy playing video games with me. So I get to spend that time with him. That's where a lot of our bond comes from, is the things that we will do together. I am a artistic person, which he
Did you say
also likes
artistic
arts
or
and crafts.
autistic?
Artistic.
I'm just
Thank you
kidding.
very
I'm
much.
just kidding.
And while I'm into arts and craft, he is also into arts and craft. So that's another way where
Chip
we
off
can
the old block.
yeah. That's another thing that we also have in common that we can relate to. Sometimes I'll even watch the newer Power Rangers with him, and then he'll ask me questions. Dad, in the olden days, did the Power Rangers do this? Because apparently I'm a dinosaur to him. So, he'll ask me things like that, and I'll show him, okay, well, what my Power Rangers era was growing up, and sometimes he'll laugh at it and call it corny or stupid. Other times he'll, fall for it in enjoyment as well. But those are the common grounds that I found with him to spend because really I only get like 4 hours with him a day, if that much. So yeah, overlapping is definitely a great technique to getting multiple things done in the day to feel more fulfilled within your day. I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree that people should be very mindful of the effects that their gaming can have on others, which again does, for instance, like when I was early teens, when I started being able to get my own video game and I was permitted by my parent to play as much video games as I wanted to, it was a point where I didn't really care to have a relationship with my siblings. I didn't really care to go outside. I didn't care to make new friends unless they were a part of the gaming scene with me and they had to like the games that I like. It was just like that was it. Video games,
Mm-hmm.
and it really did. It does build a gap because my siblings didn't understand my love for video games. My brother plays video games, but he doesn't play it. He didn't play it nowhere near as I was playing it when I was, like 13, 14 years old, 15 years old. So my siblings didn't really understand me. And because they didn't understand me, it's natural for people to build this wall between each other if one person doesn't understand the other. So
Yeah.
yeah, my siblings' bonds was tempered or started to become tempered because of the fact that I would have preferred to play my video games more than actually communicating with them. Or even on family game night, I was highly annoyed because I wanted to play my video games knowing that I didn't have much time to play because I had school the Monday morning coming, because our family game nights was always on Sunday nights. And I didn't want to be around my family. I just wanted to play my video game. But I felt like I was forced to play Monopoly, or I was forced to play Trouble, or, whatever board game that my mom chose at the time for us to play. And I didn't want to do that, which again, it built this bridge that, not bridge, it built this gap between me and my immediate family where I started to feel like, okay, they don't understand me. I don't want to build a relationship with them even further. So it pushed me further away from them because I had it in my mind to play more video games than I did to build a relationship with them. And as I got older and realized, okay, I started spending more time with my younger brother. I started spending more time with my older sister. And I realized that I missed a lot of years with them in terms of bond because I chose video games, which ultimately ended up being unhealthy. So video games, and I feel like people really should step back and see how much of their time they are putting into. I will never say playing video games is a waste of time. I will never say that. You understand what I'm saying? Because just like how someone who's really into basketball can say playing video games is a waste of time, I can say, well, watching this super rich athlete run back and forth on a court, spending $200, $300, $500 plus on a ticket is a waste of time. But that's the way they find their enjoyment. So I have to respect it. So I will respect anyone who I will never disrespect someone who finds, enjoyment in video games saying, "Oh, you're wasting your time."
It's a matter of finding
And
the right
like
balance, you know?
it's
It's
all
all
just about
balance.
finding the right balance,
All
right?
balance. Yep.
Like my oldest, he does play a lot of video games. And the other day I actually took him off of the video game and I sat with him and I said, "Listen, you're at this age now, you know, you're in this grade. You have to start thinking about life this way." So I gave him a podcast to listen to on financial planning. And I made it into like a little project for him to get done so that at least I know he's getting done. And it's not like there's a grade he's going to get or I'm going to kick him out the house because he doesn't get it done. But I want him to feel like this is an important obligation that he has to get done. Right. But really, what it is that I just want him to understand how to plan life better so that he ends up in a better position than I was when I was in my early 20s,
Right.
or better position than I am in now in my 30s. So those are things that I want him to understand. So I did have that conversation with him like, listen, if you want to play your Call of Duty or your Mortal Kombat, that's fine. You can do that. But at the same time, understand that you can't just not waste. You can't just put all your daily hours into it because there's an expectation of you when you go to school. There's an expectation of you when you go to college. There's an expectation of you when you go out into the work field. There's an expectation of you when you become a family man. So video games isn't really going to solve those expectations. So you have to know when to put the controller down and what to prioritize, when to prioritize it, and how to prioritize it so that you can build proper relationships, so that you can build a proper life for yourself.
Yeah,
That's
that makes a lot of sense. Sorry to cut you off. I feel like that lecture that you gave him would resonate more effectively with him because it came through you, simply because he met you doing the same thing that he's doing currently. So,
hmm
he's seeing the changes that you had to partake in, which is like kind of lessen the amount of playtime you have to secure your family and make sure that they're good. So one, that's commendable, and two, I'm pretty sure it definitely did not fall on deaf ears because you told him. It's not like a parent who doesn't understand games or who doesn't have an appreciation for whatever activity the child is doing, is telling them what they should be doing. It's like, you know, people, and I'm sure you guys have come across this plenty of times, where somebody will tell you how to handle your funds or how to deal with certain things, and they themselves don't even know what they're doing. They want to give you advice on things that they themselves don't know what they're doing.
Yep.
um
Yeah.
now, I'm not saying that people who are not doing certain things don't have knowledge in which to do them, but it's like it doesn't resonate speaking to someone who has no money versus someone who's speaking to you how to handle money that actually has an abundance of income. Um, so in that particular part, I feel like he understood the words coming from you, and whatnot. Now,
Well, I was
in
gonna say,
regards
like, people
to,
like to role play success. They don't,
yes,
that's a
you
good
pretty much
one.
you pretty
but
much
that's
said
what
it.
it is. They
You
people
pretty much
like to
summed
role
it
play
up.
success. Like, I want to pretend like I am more than what I actually am, and I'm guilty of that. I think everybody's guilty of that at some point in their life, where they,
hmm
they kind of put on a hat or a mask to seem smarter, to seem stronger, to seem more whatever it is, right? To get
hmm
social points, because at the end of the day, we're social
Yeah,
creatures. We need each other in order to do anything. Like, without each other, there there are clear limitations. We all saw I Am Legend. Will Smith was losing his shit for a reason, because he's a social
hmm
creature. So
yeah,
people like to role play success, in order to get social points and to stroke their own ego. And I think it's important to, again, it goes back to what I said before about tracking everything and writing things down. It gives you a really clear picture of where you are, and where you want to be, and what you need to do in order to get there. And when you don't write things down, your mind tends to play tricks on you, because you can't trust your own mind. That sounds crazy, but it's true. Your mind will fuck with you and will push you to make bad decisions for yourself, that your logical part of your brain knows better, right? It's like, if you have
yeah,
a bag of chips, right? That bag of chips is like, let's say, 10 servings, and each serving is 150 calories or 100 calories, right? I've done it before. I'm pretty sure everybody else here in the podcast has done it before, where you get a bag of chips or a bag of cookies or whatever snack, pick your poison, literally, and you just eat the whole fucking thing, because you're
Yeah,
sitting
you
here
just
watching YouTube,
mindlessly.
or
yeah,
you're watching whatever show, Netflix or whatever, right? And you're not even thinking about what you're doing. You're
Yeah.
just doing it because it's like, well,
yeah,
this tastes good, so I'm just gonna kind of keep stuff in my face, right? And it's
yeah,
the same thing with video games. It's fun, right? And time just fucking flies past you, and it's like, whoa, I just played this game for 8 hours. Think about all the things you could have done in 8 hours. You could have slept for 8 hours and gotten your day's worth of sleep, right? Which is a huge time sink as is, right? You could have cleaned your house. You could have you could have worked a part-time shift. You could have done your laundry. You could have done a bunch of things in those 8 hours, but instead you did
yeah,
what? You frolicked in this digital world and got digital coins, right? Like, and there's nothing wrong with video games. I'm not saying that you shouldn't engage in them. You should know your limits and enforce your limits. That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry. I kind of went
yeah.
on a little tangent there. My
No,
bad.
no, no. That again, that makes
I'm
perfect sense
sorry.
as well. What I think some people fail to realize is that your brain is also a muscle, and it can be trained and proper as well.
Yeah.
So, your everything in your body has to be trained to a certain level, and if they're not trained to a certain level, they're not going to produce the way that they were intended to produce.
Yeah, they're not going to
So
produce the results that you want.
yeah,
I, I
exactly.
never I never understood some gamers that I've met, especially when they're real heavy in gaming. I never understood the logic of, well, I don't need to make, for example, this is just an example since we're on the significant other one. I don't need a significant other because they'll just cheat on you anyways, but my video games will never cheat on me. Like I
Whoa.
don't
You, I
I never understood that
what
overall
I
logic.
I
what I
can
think it is.
go ahead, Esoteric, and I'll chime in.
I was gonna speculate that them basically saying that is pretty much them putting up walls from dealing with certain social activities. For example, you know there, as you stated, Wolf, there are some people who uh, you know don't take the time to understand what it is that you enjoy, and there's a lot of people out there who looks at games as, oh, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of space, what are you doing?
Hmm.
We have stereotypes for gamers. There are stereotypes for gamers that are not so great. So I think that's their way of internalizing how they feel about someone who they probably encountered. It's kind of like the
So it's a
word I'm looking
defense
for.
mechanism.
That's what I was gonna say. It's a defense mechanism. That's what I was trying to pretty much say. Um, because I'm pretty sure we've all engaged with someone who looked at our hobby as ill, like disgusting, as like it's ridiculous. And it's a hobby that as we get older, it gets even more frowned upon. Like, how old are you? You're what? Playing this game at this age? Like, shouldn't you be doing something else? Like, being in this hobby, in this atmosphere, it gets a lot of frack. And I think that person is like, well, I don't need to speak to this person because my game won't do my game does this for me. Oh, I don't need to listen to stories because this game gives me a story. Oh, or whatever the hell it is. It's their defense mechanism, you
So
know.
yeah, to put it in like just one phrase, it's a defense mechanism. And a defense to what? It's a defense out of against fear, right? Like I don't want to run the risk of being rejected or being shunned or whatever. And so I will adapt this ideology of, well, the games will never hurt me because they're inanimate. Like they're not real, right? They're just a thing.
Hmm.
They don't have emotion. So that's really what it is. Because I not that I subscribed to it, but I certainly kind of like felt, what's the word? I kind of aligned with that way of thinking for not for a long time, but for a time in the past, I did feel like, okay, well, there's no surprises here, right? I can't be, there's no like, oh, I cheated on you and I broke your trust. Like that doesn't really happen with,
Yeah.
with your video
The-
game. Like you know what you're getting when
yeah.
you're playing Super
Like
Mario Brothers, you know?
yeah, like the unknown variables within the game is controlled. It,
Right.
it doesn't
And
affect.
you said it, control, and people are, you can't control people, right? If the past events of this past year have been any indication with whether or not you should be getting a specific medical procedure, if you know what I'm saying, like you can't control people, right? And there's a certain level of unpredictability when it comes to people, and so some people are afraid of that and some people don't want to deal with it, and so they kind of find themselves in a corner by themselves and they think that's healthy when it's really not. You're going against your own nature. It's like you're declawing a cat. Like a cat's nature is to scratch things. Like that's what it does, right? When you declaw a cat, animals go into depression. That's a real thing, so
Yeah,
don't
that's true.
declaw yourself. Like, and this is coming from an introvert. Like I'm not extroverted at all. Like I like to keep to myself. I'm a very private person, generally speaking, but I do enjoy social
Word. Yep.
activities. So, like
Yeah.
doing this podcast, this is a fun, enjoyable social,
Activity.
experience. right? Like think of this. Like we've been doing the podcast for a few months now, about half a year, right, give or take, and we all live pretty much in different places, and we used to hang out like all the time, right? Like 3, 4, 5 times a week in
Mhm.
person, right? 10 years ago or
Mhm.
whenever it was. Now that's not really feasible. Even meeting up once a year is difficult, right?
Mhm.
If we didn't do this podcast, right? How much how much would we socialize with each other in a verbal sense, right? Compared to not doing the podcast, there would be a huge discrepancy in social interactivity between this particular group of people if we didn't do the podcast, right? And so
Yeah.
that's this is a great example of like tracking and being consistent. It's healthy. Like these conversations are fun to have for me personally.
Mhm.
I can't speak
Yeah.
for you guys. I would hope it's
It
fun
is for
because
me as
you're here
well.
every week, but but that's
It's
what I
definitely
mean.
fun for
Like
me as
I
well.
identify your relationships and try to find overlap, manage your time, right? And to go back to identifying relationships, like listen, does that mean if you're a gamer and you want a significant other, does your significant other have to be a gamer? No, that's not. I mean, if you could
Oh yeah.
find a gamer, girlfriend or boyfriend that like lines up with your morals and you're attracted to and you have chemistry, like if you can get all of that, then great, you've hit the fucking lottery. Congratulations. But don't date somebody just because they're a gamer and then nothing else lines up, because then
Yeah.
you're not going to be
They're just gonna
happy,
fail.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just going to fail. So it's just like
And
with dieting, and I know I keep bringing up dieting, but I feel like that's that and money is the things that everybody can kind of relate to, because everybody's familiar with finances and food. um Dieting, like if you decide, okay, I'm going to eat these very specific things, but I don't like the taste of any of these things, you're going to be fucking miserable. It's hard as shit to diet that way. You got to find a compromise, right? You got to find a seasoning or a sauce, or have a cheat day or two or whatever, something to balance it out, because if you stray too far to one side of the spectrum, you're going to burn yourself out and then you're just going to fail, right? It's just like if you try to save too much money. Let's say you make $4,000 a month, right? And you go, and let's say your expenses are $2,000, right? And you go, I'm going to save those other $2,000, right? I'm not going to buy any luxury items. I'm not going to do anything fun. I'm not going to buy anything cool for myself. I'm just going to sit here in silence, right? You're going to fucking kill yourself. Like, and for
yeah.
what? You know what I mean? I'd rather you save the 1,000 or the $500 and at least enjoy the other $1,500 of your income to maintain your fucking sanity. Again, it goes back to balance. Like there's a balance to it, and the easiest way to balance things is to manage it, and the easiest way to manage things is to write things down.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. That definitely makes a lot of sense. Couldn't have said it better.
You could have if you gave it a shot, I'm sure.
The I guess the only thing that I would say pertaining to relationships is when you do find that person, or if you do establish a friendship, or whatever type of ship that you're looking for, express the fact that you enjoy certain hobbies. That's very
Transparency is
important.
super important. You want to be honest
Yeah.
and transparent for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, you absolutely want to do that, because even if the person is not too like versed in what it is that you enjoy, or doesn't like what it is that you enjoy personally, at least they'll respect your time for when you decide to do it.
Hopefully.
Wolf
Hopefully.
definitely gave me a lot of credit, but I would say most of my credit goes out to luck, simply because I
Big
was pretty much born.
surprise.
Whatever. But I was pretty much born into a family that embraced games. Not as much as I, but they did play games to some degree, even down to like my mom. Who supplies the food on the table, who makes the money, who does all of this. Like my mom and dad, they allocated some of that time to play video games. Even the extended family, aunts and uncles who, like it was my aunt who put me on the very first Legend of Zelda and was able to find every goddamn thing in that goddamn game. Like you know, I was for the most part surrounded by people who enjoyed what it is that I enjoyed. It was only that one freaking hiccup in my life that took 11 years of it, where it kind of was really difficult for me to really embrace the activity
Now it's a
that
hiccup.
I mean, in terms of that, like I don't regret my time. You grow as a person. I don't regret it. Um, but I could just imagine all the time that I've allocated into her that could have went into games. So,
Again, it goes back to my
um,
crystal ball analogy. Like, if you can
Yeah,
see
the
that
crystal ball
number, it
analogy.
would really
yeah.
piss you off. It would really upset you. And listen, I've dated people that I've compromised myself, where I gave up, I engaged in things I enjoyed less to appease them, right?
Power of
And
the what?
say again,
I said power of the what?
Mm.
power of the Pete. So
The meow.
listen, and this might be because I'm older now, and so I have like a better grasp on my faculties. But you can't, again, transparency is important,
Yes.
and understanding the balance. You can't give up too much. You got to get a return on your investment, and if you're not going to get a return on your investment, then it is not worth investing, right?
Right.
So
That's one thing I can say
yeah.
is that's one thing I can say that me and my wife had to learn with each other, because when we first started dating, she hated, I mean, despised the fact that I played video games. Um, at all. Like if I even played video games in her presence, she hated it. Or she would do her best to put me in a bad mood to not want to play the video game. Sometimes just how it goes down. When we were first dating. And then it got to the point where it was either we grow together to understand that this is my hobby and this is what I'm going to do because this is what makes me happy, or we move separate.
Hmm.
She goes her way, I go my way, right? But what I do love now is that she doesn't engage in playing video games with me. No, she doesn't. But she respects the time. So if I get home and I don't want to deal with anything, for example, just say if I were to get home and don't want to deal with anything, I just want to pick up my controller and start playing said video game. She'll be like, "Oh, you're on your game. Okay." And then she'll go do her thing, right? There's no longer a bother. There's no longer a pushback.
You've made a
There's no longer
compromise.
right. I
Yeah.
made a compromise. But at the same time, and what a lot of people tend to forget, especially in this new day and age with the way people are viewing relationships, what people tend to forget is that if you want a successful relationship, you still have to give,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
So me as
yeah.
the gamer, right? Me as the gamer, while gaming is my hobby, I still have to give her that attention that she needs for me to have a relationship with her. So if I don't give her that attention, how am I going to get her? How would I have gotten her into a particular scenario to even be with me currently now, to even have my child, right?
Right.
I can't exactly, like playing video games doesn't create children. So I have to I had to still learn that, okay, well, the amount of time I'm putting into video games, if I say I want this person in my life, I also have to understand that this is a whole other adult that
Hmm.
I'm dealing with,
Yeah.
another conscious being that I'm dealing with. And if I want her around, there are certain things that I do have to move around and minimize, maximize, do more of, do less of, whatever it is to help to help this person understand, like, hey, I do see you and hey, I do care about you. But that person cared about me enough to say, I understand that this is your hobby. I understand that this is how you keep in contact with your friends. And because having a friendship, having friends, whether you're in a relationship or not, is still very important, she gives me that space, you know. So even now, getting on the podcast, my kids could be running around and making noise. And she made it her duty to make sure that no one in the house is making any noise so that I can properly do this podcast, because she's learned to respect that that is my interest.
Yeah.
So it definitely is a give and take, you know, like um it's hard. It is hard in the beginning because, you know, it could be two clashing personalities, but again, it has to be a want. It has to be something that you're willing to do. If you're willing to, I don't know, buy cookies and eat a whole pack of Chips Ahoy while watching whatever Netflix popular show is on now, um, then you should know to, you know, okay, well, this person is a person and this person is asking for my attention. Let me give it to them. And this goes out to both gamer girls and gamer guys, because gamer girls can get caught up in their video games, and there are guys out there who do want attention from their girlfriend or, you know, their
Sure. Yeah,
significant
this
other.
isn't like a
Yeah.
gender specific thing. This
Right.
goes to
It
anybody.
Yeah.
isn't.
For
It goes
sure.
to everyone. So, you know, it's rough. It's rough,
Yeah.
but it's definitely doable.
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
your game will always be there. Like it'll auto save. You can save it. Like it's never going away. But relationships, especially with other people, depending on how strong they are, they can erode, they can decay, and they can eventually disappear. So it's
Yep.
like you never want to prioritize this electronic adventure on my box of choice over an actual living breathing human if you truly say that I care about this person. And it could be a intimate relationship, a family relationship, a
Mm,
good friend. Like it's really easy to just get wrapped up in a video game, and then you stop hitting up your friends. They'll message you like, hey, you want to hang out? But it's like, oh shit, this new From Software game came out. I kind of want to spend 50 hours on it. So you're like, nah, I'm busy. You're not really busy. You're playing something that you could play at any time, and then it might come a point
But
where
it's
they
double
stop
XP
messaging.
weekend.
Right, right, or like it's I get foot points if I fucking score enough goals today. Like, and then there might come a point in time where that person stops messaging you, and you know
Or
you
God
don't
forbid
want
that
that to
person
happen.
passes away, or something, like, something drastic happens.
Right, or
Yeah.
they needed you for something like, hey man, I'm having a rough time. Can I talk? It's like, oh man, but that shit, I want to get Prestige 4 tonight. I'm busy. Like, you never want to do that because you don't know what that conversation could have been about, and you don't know what the end result is because you didn't just take an hour, 2 hours, whatever, to just turn off the fucking PlayStation or Xbox and talk with that person, or just be a human being. It's not all about games, and this goes to a lot of hobbies. It's like, but since we're on games, it's not all about games. Like, take the time. The theme of tonight's podcast is time management. Take the time to address the people in your life that matter to you, and you'll see that, you know, your relationships will be the stronger for it. And guess what? You can still continue your game when you get back to it.
yeah,
Exactly. Sometimes you have to, step away from reinforcing your gear to reinforcing relationships. It's
Yeah.
very important.
There's to me, that's just part of maturing as an adult or maturing as a person. But we all brought it up when we were kids. We was just like, nah, game, game, game. Screw you, mom. Screw you, dad. Screw you, sis. I'm just
hmm,
we beating the stage tonight.
Well, I think some of that kind of, sums up to proximity. Like most of the friendships that we have were pretty much because of school, and we got to see them, 8 hours out the day. when it come to family, you live with your family, so you got to see them. You didn't necessarily have to engage with them. Um, so you would just play your games and chill. I feel what helped me grow as a person to kind of, allocate my time more efficiently and make time for friends, family, etc. Because as Wolf knows, like my family, although they do play games, they play a little too much games in terms of pranks and annoying the shit
Yeah,
out
they
of me.
play different types of
Um,
games.
yeah, and that's something that I just that just annoys me. But growing up, being on my own, moving with the missus, and not just in a different like street or different like borough to a whole different state. It it's really important for me to reinforce and kind of maintain the relationships I currently have because in the past, let's be real, most of it was like proximity, but as we get older, as we come together, as we tend to kind of like disperse into our own responsibilities and adulthood, you know, the relationships become that much more prominent if you hold on to them.
Dude, have you
If that
tried
makes any
making
sense.
friends as an adult? Like as a
That
older
shit is
adult?
hard.
That shit is not easy. That shit
Yeah,
is
it's hard.
it's uh I underestimated how lucky I am to have like, the friends that I do have because just like it's not like school, like when we were in school, whether that be college, high school or anything else,
Mhm.
like just going out there and just cold approaching people and just talking to people, that shit is wow.
Yeah.
You thought talking to that girl you like is hard, dude. Try making friends and hoping,
Yeah.
like, not only is the approaching difficult. I mean, I can do it, but also hoping that there's chemistry, and then that we connect. Like that's RNG. Like that, you don't know if that's gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Shit, it's even difficult when you guys share the same hobby. Like, there's times where I'd see somebody have a cool tattoo of a video game or anime that I like, and I'm like, "Hey, cool tattoo," and they looking at me like, "Well, why the fuck you looking at me?" You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, they're just
it's
they're not
it's
a
like, why are you
compatible
talking to me?
person. Yeah,
I don't know. It's probably where I live now because where I used to live, it was like, don't even look at me because if you look at me, it's like I want to fight or whatever. Um, but it's like, you try to be more social, especially in this climate that we're trying to get out of or not trying to get out of. I don't even freaking know, whatever. But you again, as Kong said, we are social creatures. So, you know, try to come out my shell a little bit, and
I
sometimes
mean,
it bites me in the ass.
it's
Other
funny you
times it's cool.
mentioned it's funny you mentioned friendships. I'm thinking back into my adult life minus people that here and some others. I've only made two additional people that I can call friends in my adult life, and it was because of video games. That was it. Like, and and
Hmm.
there was a time where I was like, are we really like friends, or are we just like people who played the same game, and that's where the relationship or the friendship begins and ends? We have no other things in common outside of it. Luckily, it turned out not to be the case, and I don't even play the same game anymore, but we still talk and hang out, and they came to visit not too long ago. But yeah, it's that shit's hard, man.
Yeah,
it's
it,
hard.
it
It is hard.
it usually starts with two things. It's usually the commonality that you guys share or proximity, where you guys are at to be able to engage with one another. Um, you know, there are times where we come close together based on the hobbies that we share or based off the common interests that we have, but sometimes we just fail to expand on that. Like when we were in college with Wolf and Gunner, yeah, we share that common interest of playing games, but then I was like, well, we're always playing games. Let's go out, let's go somewhere. Unfortunately, Kong wasn't there at the time, but we ended up going to a club and hanging out, being in a different atmosphere, you know. So it's just, when you try to establish these friendships, sometimes you gotta let them into other ventures that you're interested in. Again, kind of re-emphasizing the whole expressing what it is that you like or enjoy, being transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all that to say, if you made it this far, thank you. Preserve your relationships, whether they be romantic, friendly, family oriented, whatever that looks like. If you value it, preserve it. Manage your time. Find overlap where you can. Wolf mentioned, he gets his gaming in with his kid, right? That's quality time and bonding with his child, and that's better time spent in the eyes of his wife, right? She'd rather him play games with his kid than by himself, because it's like, well, okay, they're bonding, right? There's, again, it goes back to that
Exactly.
overlap conversation
Yeah.
that I was bringing up before. So preserve your relationships, write shit down, track your life, track every aspect of it, manage your life, take control of your life, and try to find the overlap where you can. Sometimes you can't find overlap, can't be helped, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to tracking and managing. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us for this conversation. This was an interesting one. Wasn't sure how it was going to flow, but we found our bearings, and we got a podcast out of it. So if you enjoyed this, please leave a like on the like section, comment down below with your thoughts on what we talked about, or any other topics that you want to hear us talk about in the future. Subscribe. We do a podcast every week. Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when they publish. So subscribe if you want to be notified on that. We also do 2-minute reviews every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we review various games that we play on stream. We also stream. So I stream under BlankaKong. I stream mostly retro games and indie titles, because I stream what I want to stream. I'm not going to allow the industry to tell me what to play. I play what I like. And if you want to watch me play a chill game,
rebel.
then cool. And if not, then that's cool too. If you want to see more updated games, Mr. Esoteric streams on Logical Gamers TV on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 1 a.m. He usually plays single-player action-adventure games, such as Horizon, Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Sekiro, Returnal, Tomb Raider, Neo, games like that. Games where you kill things and chop things up. That's his thing. So if you're interested in that, check him out. We also have I'll let Esoteric tell us the social media stuff. Esoteric, tell the people where they could find us on the socials.
Well, before I do that, I'm going to expand on the different games, because my game title balance seems to have shifted. So I do play other things as well, but whatever. But you can find us on
Yes.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Logical Gamers TV. Just look for the light bulb icon. We also have a Discord and a TikTok, which is also Logical Gamers TV. Same icon, same place. And yeah, hope to see you guys there.
Awesome. And he also plays Splatoon and Pokemon and stuff. Anyway, guys, thanks for the conversation. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.